When her voice broke and she said, "Erica slept with my man," she accused Erica Mana of the ultimate betrayal. In a live session that no one saw coming, she screamed, cried, and pointed fingers, breaking the internet. Within seconds, fans were paralyzed. Thousands of comments came in. Hearts fell, jaws struck the ground, and Mendeecees, who had been sitting quietly next to her, got up, and the internet flew into a frenzy as she left. But the screen glitched and Andy screamed louder. Was she speaking the truth, or was this simply another hip-hop and love trick? Or had one of the most talked-about relationships on reality TV finally imploded in front of insiders, alleged that the live stream was not staged, produced, or phony? Rather, it was wrath, betrayal, and sadness that were all happening in real time, and that Andy didn't hold back when naming names. The situation only got worse from there. Documents in declaring that she would never forgive either of them, leaving fans stunned, perplexed, and split. Some say Yandy is finally expressing her truth, while others think she's having a breakdown. Nevertheless, there's no denying that this is the most messy love and hip-hop drama to date, and it's only the beginning. Just getting started, no one anticipated Yandy's live appearance that evening. There were no teases, no stories implying a breakdown, nothing except a startling ping. And there she was, her face bare, her eyes swollen, her voice shaking, and her supporters instantly shivered. Then she dropped the bomb, looking straight into the camera, taking a shaky breath, and saying the words that would send shockwaves through the internet. "I slept with my man." I could tell something wasn't right because it wasn't her usual polished self, with no filters or glam, just raw emotion radiating through the screen. Emojis and hearts poured in during the live chat, but nobody knew what to type. Was she serious? Was she implying that Erica Mina, the Erica who had just featured on a few episodes alongside her, had gone too far? Instead of waiting for responses, Wendy continued, her voice rising and trembling with hurt, rage, and disbelief. She claimed that it began with an unidentified vibe, with glances and jokes that didn't sit well with her. She dismissed it, saying she didn't want to attend. She insisted on cleaning her nose, but I had a gut feeling that this wasn't right. Fans began screen recording, tagging gossip blogs, and sharing the live footage, and within minutes, the video was becoming viral before she even mentioned Mendeecees. I'm not the jealous type. You're going to sit there and pretend it's not true. Next to her, with his arms crossed and his face icy, Yandy looked at him and then back at the camera. She questioned, but he didn't answer. She shook her head and laughed painfully as he continued. It was just one night, but that night ruined everything. The fans watching were shocked because no one had seen it. Then came the bit that left everyone in shock. According to Yandy, she discovered it by looking through his communications and discovering deleted texts that had been backed up to the cloud, along with old pictures and files that were flirtatious. Text from Erica, she wrote, "What the hell am I going to do with that? You taste better than I remember." When Yandy yelled and slapped her hand against the couch, Mendeecees finally moved in his seat, but her voice cracked, remained silent, and his silence nearly overshadowed Yandy's accusations. People in the comments were pleading with him to say something, and others were urging her to stop. But Yandy wasn't finished. She described how strange things had been ever since that group trip, which was captured on camera but never broadcast. After too much mayhem broke out, the producer supposedly threw out the tape. According to Sandy, it was the trip that changed everything. She was acting very touchy with him. "I thought she was just being friendly, but now I know," he recounted. Fans were frozen with the thought that Erica and Mendeecees had done something behind her, she muttered, recalling a specific night when she went to bed early due to a headache. Mendeecees had stayed behind with the rest of the cast, and that's when it happened, she recalled. I told you before that I don't even remember half of that night when he mumbled while still not addressing the camera, and he turned swiftly toward him. The way she narrated it made it feel all too real. Back when filming a reality show, it was already scandalous. Conveniently, she snapped, "You don't remember, but she does." She even remembered the posture you were in, feces rubbing his forehead, which was obviously unpleasant. The comments went crazy once more, with fans identifying Erica and demanding an answer. I defended you and both of you, as she cried with tears that she felt humiliated. People had been telling me this for months, and I responded, "No, Erica, she's not like that. She's married and has her own mess to deal with." However, I was mistaken when Yandy abruptly raised her phone to attempt to take screenshots. She fumbled, swiped, and threw it to the ground, screaming in exasperation. Mendeecees stood up a little to assist, but she slapped his hand away and shouted, "Don't touch me," between gritted teeth. Then the moment that cemented Mendeecees' fixation with this meltdown came when he got up, glanced at her and then at the camera, and left the screen without a word. The door slammed behind him. With a final, gentle thud, he left him shocked. Her hands were quivering, and her mouth was slightly open. "Wow," she mumbled. "So that's it. You just have to walk away like you didn't do anything." The live chat went insane. Thousands of viewers were now watching, some begging her to end the live, others urging her to keep going. And she did. Yandy leaned back, took a deep breath, and said, "I gave this man everything. I stood by him when I battled for our family, reared his children, and he was imprisoned. And this is how he gives me back." With Erica Mena, her voice broke once more. Coming from someone who isn't even secure in her own life, she briefly covered her face before looking up again. Her countenance became more serious, but as soon as her phone buzzed with a text, she looked at it and her entire attitude changed. And now she wanted to text me. Yandy hissed, "Too late for that," she said, reaching down and grabbing her phone once more. This time, she was determined and apologized, saying, "Girl, you don't trip and fall into somebody else's man. You made a choice." It was messy, raw, and full of scandal. The type of drama that spreads like wildfire across blogs, Reddit threads, and every shave room comment section. And fans were consuming every moment of it. However, it seemed as though Yandy wasn't even considering any of that anymore. Instead, she finally opened up and said, "I let you in my house, Erica. You played with my kids and smiled in my face while you were plotting behind my back." She shook her head and wiped away her tears, saying, "I should have known. I should have." Have known since she began referring to him as bro all the time, as if we didn't understand what that false sister act actually meant. Her suffering was now transforming into rage, and her supporters were riveted to every word she spoke, refusing to accept that she had been blaming herself for weeks. Perhaps she wasn't loving enough, or perhaps she was too preoccupied with her work, but now that she knew the truth, it was killing her. As she was speaking, a car's faint starting sound could be heard in the background, and Mendeecees was leaving the room and the house. For a brief moment, Yandy paused. "I'm not doing this for sympathy. I'm doing this because I'm tired of protecting people who wouldn't spit on me if I were on fire," she said after sitting in silence for a few seconds and then laughing bitterly. However, a woman's voice could be heard chuckling as she mentioned something about what happens in Miami stays in Miami. Yandy turned to face the camera and remarked, "You hear that that's her talking about the same weekend they claimed nothing happened, but she didn't know he restored that voicemail she sent him as a joke, but he neglected to remove it." Fans were shocked to see that this was becoming more than just drama. It was becoming a full-fledged evidence collection. People began dubbing it a cheater court and pleading for Yandy to release more. Receipts, but she wasn't even close. She disclosed that after questioning Mendeecees, he had acknowledged more than just the Erica incident. He mentioned other people, but I could tell by the expression in his eyes that it had been more than I had ever thought. After pausing, he said, "How do you sleep next to someone for years and not know who they really are?" The live had been going for almost half an hour by this point, but nobody was disconnecting, so it wasn't just she sat back down, fatigued, her voice softer, but still full of incredulity. I fought for him, fighting judges, attorneys, bloggers, and trolls to protect a man who wouldn't even consider he allowed Erica, the same woman who has treated every male she has dated disrespectfully, to come that close to him. "I can't do this anymore," she said, shaking her head once again and her eyes glassy. The live chat then asked where the Mendeecees had gone. Others conjectured that he had drove to Aratha's house, while others suggested that he was most likely hiding out with his boys in an attempt to fabricate a story. After reading the comments, Andy replied, "He's gone just like that. Not a word, not a sorry, nothing." This time, I had the truth on my side, so just as Yandy was about to cancel the live, her phone rang once more. She looked down and said, "Erica, girl, don't think this is over. Don't think you're going to play the I'm broken card again." She turned the screen toward the camera and showed a dim from Erica that said, "I told you to keep your man in check, not my fault. He wanted something real." While her entire face altered, her eyes opened, and her mouth parted slightly. "Oh, no, she didn't," she gasped. People couldn't believe the rudeness and arrogance of the live explosion. It was now complete anarchy. Yandy read her out loud. Voice quivering, "You believe this to be a joke." "You think this is funny?" she yelled. She flinched when she flung the phone across the room, just missing a lamp. But she didn't care since she was playing with my family. "You're sick," she whispered in a low, threatening voice. "You're actually sick, and trust. This isn't over. You want the attention. You got it." She got back up and started pacing again. The room was ablaze with anger and heartache, and everyone was live tweeting, screen recording, and analyzing every pause. Taking a deep breath, looking straight into the lens, and saying, "I need y'all to understand something. This ain't about clout. This ain't about views. This is about respect," concluded the largest scandal in love in hip-hop history, which was unfolding in real time with receipts, wrath, and raw emotion. Her voice fell to a whisper once more, but not this time, and then the sound of jingling keys came from the front door. And I lost all of mine trying to protect a man who ain't never been loyal to me. If that's him, he better be ready to explain everything, because now the whole world is watching, murmured Wendy, slowly turning her head toward the sound as her face froze and her lips clenched up hard. The tension on her was so intense that a knife could cut through it, and then the screen abruptly went black. Fans waited for the comment to pause, and then the Lev returned in time for the next bombshell moment, when nobody was prepared. The camera shifted slightly to show Yandy approaching the front door with her shoulders set and her posture tight, as if she were getting ready for battle. The keys jingled once more, and the knob turned slowly as the door opened. It was Mendeecees, and he entered as though he already knew what awaited him. His gaze instantly landed on the camera, which was still broadcasting live for a moment, and he hesitated, as if he wasn't sure whether to run or face what was coming. But Yandy wasn't going to give him a choice. "You really had the audacity to enter here at this moment," she said, her voice sharp like glass. Mendeecees attempted to speak, raising one hand in a soothing gesture. But she interrupted him, saying, "Don't say a word, don't say a word." The whole he looked worn out and exhausted, like a guy who had been carrying a lie for too long and suddenly felt its weight breaking him. "The internet knows what you did, and if you think you're going to stroll in here and pretend like it's business as usual, you've gone completely crazy." Please, we should not have this conversation in front of everyone." However, Yandy simply laughed loudly and bitterly, saying, "Oh, now you care about who's watching you." He tried to approach her, but she stepped back and pointed at the camera, saying, "No, you're going to talk right here. Let the people hear what you have to say. Let them see the man behind the smile, behind the interviews, behind the fake." He should have considered that before disrespecting me in front of the entire damn world. DC's love man gazed at the camera, then turned back to her, scratched his face, and then nodded, saying, "You want the truth. All right, yes, I made a big mistake, but it wasn't what you think," he said, taking a deep breath. Erica, she came on to me. She was aware of our issues and exploited them. "Don't play the victim. You're a grown man and could have left," she said, rolling her eyes and crossing her arms. "You're right, I could have," Mendeecees said slowly. "But I didn't because I was weak and self-centered and didn't consider the repercussions. I simply felt that you weren't there for me anymore, Yandy's." Her voice trembled in horror. "I gave up everything for you, including my peace, my name, and my time. And you think you can blame this on me?" Mendeecees didn't answer, and the stillness was deafening. Yandy shook her head and took another step back. "You know what hurts more than adultery is the betrayal. Letting someone I trusted into your space, and letting her make fun of me while I was out here standing up for you in front of the world's men. I never wanted to harm you. I believed it was a mistake that I could bury, and that it would never come out. But now that it has, I see that I don't deserve it." He looked down, his voice barely above a whisper, and said, "I know, and I hate myself for it." He looked back up. "You're damn right you don't." She turned back to the camera. "You all heard this man right here admit to destroying our marriage for a few moments of attention, and the worst part is that he still does. Your forgiveness made Yandy's eyes fill once more, but this time with something more than sadness. And resentment Mendeecees came closer again, this time more frantic, and I swear I understand. I know you don't believe me, but I know I broke you and I broke us." He reached for her hand, but she jerked away, and the air was heavy with even the live viewers were having trouble keeping up with the emotion as comet after comet swam across the screen, with some pleading with Yandy to leave him and others urging her to try to make things better. However, Yandy was already making her decision, saying, "I want you gone," and males blinked. "What?" Yandy said again, more loudly, "I want you to leave, get your belongings, and go wherever you need to go, but you're not staying here anymore. Not tonight, not tomorrow." Mendeecees stood motionless, as if his body had simply shut down. He nodded slowly without arguing or pleading, saying softly, "If that's what you want, I'll go." He went to the bedroom to get his belongings, and Yandy fell onto the couch, panting heavily. The camera followed her every movement of her fingers and every change in her eyes, until an unexpected event occurred. When her phone rang, she looked down to saw it was Erica again. This time, it was a video call, and for a while, she just stared at the screen, her jaw tightened, before answering against her better judgment. Erica's smug expression filled the screen as she responded. Yandy's eyes narrowed as she smirked and added, "You seem exhausted," as if she hadn't just exploded a bomb inside someone's life.